Unexplained Australia podcast, brought to you by Hunter Valley Ghost Tours and Lakes Paranormal.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Unexplained Australia podcast. As I said in the last podcast, I'd actually going to try and do a few more podcasts as the year goes by, probably one every couple of weeks. So if there's anybody out there in the paranormal, unexplained, supernatural sort of areas of the world and they want to sort of come on the show, pop me an email, murray@unexplainedaustralia.com, and we'll see if we can get you on. So today we have a very special guest on the program. We have Pete Clifford. Now, Pete is the owner-operator of the Blue Mountains Mystery Tours. Pete is a paranormal investigator, storyteller, local historian and folklorist. He's been running tours for 14 years in the Blue Mountains, one of Australia's most popular tourist attractions, and one of Australia's most mysterious regions. Pete also is a local. He grew up in the area, which gives him lots of stories and information which he shares with you on his tour. Now, I did the tour with Pete probably a couple of months ago, maybe now, and it was an absolutely fantastic night. He had us out to the wee hours, that's for sure. Thoroughly entertaining and informative, and also very spooky in areas as well. So highly recommend Pete's tours. But he's been a little bit under the weather lately, so he's had a bit of the touch of the flu over the last couple of weeks. Poor bugger went on a holiday and got sick. So hopefully he's feeling a little bit better now. So thank you very much, Pete, for coming on and sharing your time with us. And how are you feeling? You feeling a bit better?
Yeah, mate, I'm over the worst of it. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And, went for that holiday, mate, and wasn't very refreshing at all.
That's no good, particularly when you sort of, work hard all year the way that you do. It's, you sort of really look forward to those holidays to sort of rest and, and refresh and sort of, get your immune system back up and happening again. But, oh, well, sometimes these things happen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the worst of times.
So I'll just go.
Sounds like a good idea. Okay, Pete, so I've got a series of questions here for you, and we'll just get right into it.
Great, mate. Thank you.
So, first question is, what made you want to do guided tours with a supernatural/mystery theme?
Look, growing up in the mountains, mate, the place is just full of myths, legends, and ghost stories. It's always been that mystery around the area since I was a child. And so what really got me started off was back in 1999, my mum was diagnosed with cancer and told she had weeks to live. It was a shock, didn't know what to do. At the time, my wife was actually doing some psychic development classes with Rhonda Stewart Garfield. She said, why don't you come along one night and, relax and it's all about communicating with the other side and relaxing and making you feel comfortable about, death and dying and, that we don't end, we continue on. So I decided, okay, I'll come along one night and I loved it. And for the next couple of years, I attended those classes. Psychic development, connecting with your higher self, space clearings, house clearings and healing work. So it was a big change from being a buffy construction worker for 17 years. And next thing you know, I'm in a psychic development class as the only fellow with 20 ladies. So meant to be, I'm still doing them. So that's how I basically got started with the idea. We had to do a lot of meditation and communicating with our higher self and our guides, and so it was basically higher self connection, hook up, and receive information. And I was doing a heavy duty meditation one day there, and all good. And I basically said, what do I need to know? What's my next step? What's in sight for me? And I had a heavy meditation where I saw myself driving a bus, basically taking people around, tourists, talking about Blue Mountains myths, legends, UFOs, ghost stories, and history that was unexplained. And that's how I got started. And 15 years later, mate, here I am. I've got a new van now, and we're going from strength to strength. People love it, and it was meant to be. And it all came out of a meditation, basically out of the ether. And you've been on it, mate. So it's materialised, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you kind of actually answered my next question there to a certain degree. So my next sort of question there was, have you always had an interest in the unexplained? Or was it something that you discovered or came to you by accident? So you've kind of already covered that. You sort of said that it's more, it more sort of came to you through the spiritual practices, as you said, connecting with your higher self and things like that. So you've kind of already answered that, haven't you? Unless there's anything else you wanted to add.
Yeah, look, in the mountains as a kid, mate, it was just, like I said, full of myths and legends and lots of UFO sightings and Bigfoot, Yowie. We love the Yowie man. He's the Blue Mountains, one of the local legends up there. And as kids, you didn't have computers, you didn't have TV. We were in the bush the whole time and exploring caves and bush ranger hideouts and investigating, exploring these stories that we'd heard as kids. So I suppose as a young age, it was always there. And, we had ghosts in our house and it was accepted and I grew up as a believer, but I didn't really get that deeply into it until, like I said, 1999.
This isn't a question I've got here, but one of the things that I particularly find interesting about this country opposed to particularly the US and the UK and probably other parts of the world as well, that not a lot of men are into this stuff in this country. I tend to find that we're certainly outweighed a lot. Females tend to be more interested in this. I don't know if that's coming from this area, the Hunter region up here, we're a very working class breed up here. And, with the BHP and the coal mining and that and all that kind of stuff, it doesn't lend well to this, world of the unseen. Everyone's very practical around here. And I find it interesting that, if you talk to, your blue collar workers around here, they're not very open to it. Some are, but a lot of them aren't. Is that similar down where you are, or is it more kind of an open attitude towards that sort of thing?
Look, the Blue Mountains has always been known as a very magical and spiritual place, and a lot of people that actually come up to the mountains have come out of the city or, like you said, a working area. They're very grounded and materialistic, and they come to the mountains for more of like a bit of a tree change and, I suppose, to ground themselves, get into the nature, get into the bush. So seems to be people are more open up here. They're more into it, but I definitely agree with the ladies. I'd say 90% of our clientele are ladies that come along. Usually they drag the husband along by the arm and, for a bit of luck, they have an experience on the night.
Well, it's exactly the same on my tours too. I know that they're got a lot more female attendees than male. You might have, 6 or 7 ladies and one guy.
Yeah.
But then quite often I find too, you'll have that one guy who is actually quite attuned to it. So which is also really good. So yeah, all right. Well, as I said earlier, so the Blue Mountains mystery focuses on, ghost stories, UFO, cryptozoology, local legends and history, etc. With yourself, what is is there any particular subject that is your favorite subject, Is it ghosts? Is it the crypto stuff? Or what's your niche area that you really, really like and one that interests you the most?
Look, it's a hard one. I love all the paranormal activity. I love everything. But as a ghost tour operator, paranormal tours, basically the spirits and the ghosts are my favourite. That's what I was brought through with the parapsychology training and the psychic development, all about spirits, basically, the positive side, the guys up in heaven there that can visit us. So positive energy, positive messages and all that sort of gear. But definitely spirits. I love to try and communicate with them. I love ITC, EVP work. I love sometimes to put on a tape recorder or use something like Echo Vox or something to build chapels and just see what comes through it. And sometimes it's rubbish, and sometimes you get the most amazing response that you just can't dismiss it, especially if it's a loved one or someone's got a message from their deceased relative and they just swear blind that that's Pop or that's their uncle, and they've had something that they just can't dismiss it. So I'd have to say ghosts, spirits, any type of
Do you make a distinction? Do you make a distinction? No, this isn't in my questions, but you kind of ad-lib with these kind of things. So do you make a distinction between a ghost and a spirit? Because I'm probably going these days with there is a distinction. I think that a ghost, and so I'm even getting away from the whole, recording, residual imprint kind of stuff. Even that, I don't think really explains anything, and probably never will. But do you draw a line between those two things? So in my mind, the way that a ghost is something you see, so an apparition, so a figure of a human being, and then a spirit. I don't know. I feel is a little bit less seen with the physical eyes, and probably more seen from your mind's eye or a mediumistic sort of point of view. What do you think?
Yeah, I reckon there's a definite difference between them. Basically, what I like to tell people when they come out with me is that a ghost is someone that's basically turned away from the light, mainly because of fear, unfinished business, material possessions. Something's holding them here, something that they're basically fearful of, the unknown. So they become what we call earthbound. Their feet are on the ground. You'll see the injury they died with, or you'll feel it, or you'll hear it, or you'll just sense, that there's a bit of a negative emotion with that experience or that communication or that emotion you're picking up with the guys. With spirits, I believe they've crossed over. They've been to the light. They've been through the tunnel. They've had a life review, seen what they've done good and bad, made peace with their maker, how they died, good or bad. And if everything's okay, then that's my phone. Where was I? That's
spirits.
The spirits have crossed over. Had a life review, all good, no worries. They've gone upstairs. They reside there as what we call a spirit, and they can come down and visit us. So I'd like to refer to it as a visitation. My mum, for example, who will visit me, she'll come on special occasions, anniversaries, birthdays, weddings, funerals. Any occasion where they would have been there in the living, they'll be there in what the old saying is, they're here in spirit.
Yeah, sure.
I'll feel if they're there, and it's always going to be a positive feeling, positive emotion, positive message. They might leave something behind. You might smell the perfume. You might feel the touch on your face. Visitation, positive, and they seem to be like a couple of feet off the ground. They sort of hover about my experience. They look perfect. They've got no marks. They've got no identification from how they died or what their lessons were through this life. Whereas with ghosts, I believe they're completely opposite. They've got the injury they died with, feet are on the ground. They're quite heavy. They're quite dense and very negative emotions. I'd refer to that as a haunting.
Yeah, sure.
There's one in the middle there. I reckon we call a grey or a dark entity or malevolent spirit. It's a ghost that after a period of time realise that they're dead and they can actually do something, and they think, hang on, I might do this and I might do that. I'm gonna flick the plate off the wall here. I'm gonna run out in front of this truck driver and give him a fright. I'm gonna maybe there's a bit of a revenge there. Maybe they were nasty when they were here.
Yeah.
So and they're very rare. Come in contact with a lot of spirits on the tour. Ghosts there as well. Dark entities, we've had contact, and normally that night's a pretty heavy duty night, especially if someone's had an experience and they've had a slap, a touch, might have even left a bruise on their neck, which disappears and appears in a minute or two. They're a ghost that's an able ghost that can really mess people up and do some strange things. So they're in between, I'd say. So that's pretty well. Haunting is a ghost, visitation is a spirit, dark entity is the one in the middle that I suppose that Hollywood wants to hang on to. And
I was going to say it sounds a little bit like the spirits who were in the movie Ghost with Patrick Swayze. I suppose it's a similar thing.
That's it. You've seen the show Ghost Whisperer with James Van Prague. He's the actual. I've been to quite a few of his seminars and I've got a lot of his books. His description is pretty spot on. When you see the guys, he's got his face all burnt and he's hanging around the house, and then all of a sudden he'll cleanse him and he'll have his business finished, and he'll be okay with what he was hanging around to do. And then you see them; they actually appear perfect, and then they ascend, or they head back up to heaven. So
sure,
it's a pretty good show.
Yeah. So the word haunt or haunting, I think from memory, comes from Hanter. I think it's Dutch or something like that, or some Germanic sort of. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but it means home or home toward or something like that. Do you feel at all that I'm sure I get this. I get asked this a lot, so I'm sure you get asked a lot too. Do ghosts follow you home?
Look, mate, I used to say I've put enough protection around myself and done enough processes to stop that happening. But over the years, sometimes I let my guard down, and I have had stuff in the house. I just had it cleared a week ago, mate, and the house was chockers. I thought it was okay. I do all my, processes, spiritual cleansing and house clearing and space clearing and stuff like that. And I thought it was okay, but this is right when I was as crook as a dog.
Yeah.
So it could have been a little bit to do with it. Wasn't sleeping. The wife was the same. The house and the office, the phone stopped ringing. I didn't realise it until the lady I go to and do classes with, she said, "Oh, mate, your house is chock-a-block full of spirits." I go, "Sorry," she said. And I went, "Oh, wow." So she rang me up the next day and she cleared the place out and phone started ringing. I'm sleeping well. The house, when the daughter came in, she said, "Wow, what's happened in here? It feels really light and lifted." So I do think they can follow you home, mate, but it's probably rare in general terms. But when you're doing something like we do, when you're out and you're talking, you're communicating, you're opening yourself up, you're probably a little bit more susceptible to picking something up and maybe something thinking, "This bloke can hear me. He's talking to me. He can see me. He's asking, do I need help? Geez, I might head off home with him. He seems okay. No one else can see me."
Yeah.
So I didn't like to think so, but I've had an experience just recently, and in the past years when I was a bit gung-ho and, throwing stuff out there and not respecting the spirit world as I should.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, that's one of the things that I don't know if I've discussed this with you before, but one of the things that where I've come around the way of thinking, and it sort of was. It actually happened when I was doing an investigation, but then it was kind of confirmed to me by a good friend of mine, Luke Patrick, who is a psychic medium up here. He's actually quite good. He doesn't do a lot of readings now, but he's very good. And I asked him, I did a bit of an interview with him, not on this podcast, but just a personal interview kind of thing. And he was saying it's all about intention, and this is where I think a lot of, and I hate to sound critical, and I don't mean I'm not picking on anybody in the paranormal field, but I think a lot of them, and I think where me and you approach it from a similar perspective, they approach it from, let's go in gung-ho with all the equipment and all the bits and pieces, let's swear at it, let's provoke, let's do this, let's do that. And I always found that the teaspoon of honey approach works a lot better. You know what I mean? Like go in and empathize and sympathize and connect. And I'll try and connect on a spiritual level, opposed to going and going, "Well, I want you to show up on my video recorder," or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
I demand you appear here.
Yeah, and I think, and in my experience at least, excuse me, that has worked better. I think personally. So,
I think so, mate. I agree with that too. And I get a lot of people come over from the States and they like to do personal or private tours, and I'm amazed at some of them are very, very soft in their approach and get right down on their level. But I've had the other side of the coin too, where I've had people come in swearing and carrying on. "I'm going to kick your butt. I'm going to do this if you don't show up," and throw something at me and that, and wonder why they probably don't have a good night's sleep when they get home there. So, like you said, I think the honey, mate, you get more bees with honey.
Okay, so my next question is, on one of your tours. Obviously, you don't have to name any names here, but on one of your tours, what's the most profound experience a tour attendee has had? Look, that sticks in your mind, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, we've had quite a few, and I don't like it because I'm talking a dark experience here more than a positive one. We've had quite a few people that have actually felt like they've had something enter their body. They've either seen it or felt it. We've had dark mists at a place we used to go to, which was terrifying, and I had an attack there myself, which was probably one of my worst experiences that I encountered there. And we're doing a session one night around an old convict stockade, a cemetery, and it was a place that was used for black magic, devil worshipping for many years in around Blackheath, where we come as kids. I've been going there since I was a child, and I never get scared in there because it's a childhood site that we go to and play as kids. So to me, it's pretty quiet, but people, they just hate it. And I just don't get there. And we're doing it one night, and I showed the guys where these guys light their fire and sacrifice beasts and light candles and have a bit of a dark sort of session in there. And I'm not sure who these guys are. We've actually experienced them a few times there. And I said, look, don't go and stand on the fire there, because that's where they sacrifice and call in, the black magic and the
Is this still happening, Pete, or is it kind of
not on this side anymore? But the mountains has always been heavily involved with a lot of dark entity, I suppose, people that are into the dark arts, the devil worshipping, and it's been there since I was a kid. I believe they're in around Katoomba now, a few people. Yeah. We've also had a couple of our other sites, and but yeah, I'm not into that, mate. I'm not against it. It's an old belief system, old dark arts and that.
Yeah,
people like it, but sometimes they can leave stuff open, like maybe a tear or a portal there of some sort that's heading into dark energy or a dark area. Yeah, and this poor guy, he just thought it was a load of rubbish and blah blah blah, and he went and walked over and stood on the ashes. Bang, down he goes. He collapsed. Yeah. And we went, oh, my God, what's happened? We picked him up. He was jelly man. He was out, dragged him back to the bus, got him into the van, and he come good. And we said, mate, what happened? He said, wow, you wouldn't believe what I've seen. I said, tell me, I believe it. And he goes, standing there, I stood on that fire. I know you said not to. And he said, I saw this black mist come towards me. And I said, describe it. And he basically said it was like... you know how Jeannie comes out of the bottle on the TV show? Yeah. And then she goes, it's that black, misty, grey shape. He said, I saw it come at me. It went straight down my throat. That's all I remember. Down he went. Wow. And we got him back to his hotel, and okay, mate, let me know how you go. I thought, he's going to have all sorts of nightmares and dramas, and God knows. Did some cleansing on the way home, and did a remote cleansing and clearing as I went home, and tried to give him a bit of a refresher. I rang up the next day and I said, how did you go, mate? He said, I slept like a baby, all good. And I said, what the hell happened? He said, mate, all I remember is this mist going down into my throat, into my chest, and I was out. And I've had a similar experience, which it encased me, it went around me. Well, thank God I didn't swallow it. And the first question I said after that was, what did it taste like? And I knew he was telling the truth, because he said to me, licorice ouzo. Right. And that was the exact experience that I had when I had my experience, where I near fainted and had something go through me, and out the other side all I tasted was ouzo licorice. And I don't like licorice, so I don't know if they knew that, but I believe this fellow had that experience. We didn't see the mist, we just saw him collapse. But when he said it tastes like ouzo licorice, I knew he was fair dinkum. So wow. We've had a few of those. I've had on our 14th birthday, only a few weeks back, we had a lady in Hartley, and in the courthouse there, and she believes that something entered her body there. First ghost tour, she probably picked the wrong one, because that was our paranormal tour. We got all the gear out and real good go at communicating that night. It was a bit more serious. And come over, have a bit of a break, and here she is on the chair, head down, and I thought, oh, God, here we go. And everyone's at me, God, mate, she's gone. And we probably had 20 people, so for the next 15 minutes I sat down with her and got inside her head and cleansed her and white lighted her and brought her back down, grounded her, and she came pretty good. So she said she saw a light. It was dark, came around the back, and next thing she said, she felt like she was going to explode. Whatever got inside of her, she said her eyes were broken out of her head. The fear inside her body, she was still shaking. But I got it done. I got the job done, and she rang up the next day and wanted to book our other next tour. So I think she came good. And
I think she must have.
2 weeks ago, similar one in the cemetery. I had a lady go down again. It's a fella there we call the coal miner. He likes to play tricks around the tree. I think you were down there with me the other day. We were trying a few tricks there at the tree, and I can normally catch if someone's going to go down. And I turned around, here she was on her knees. I thought, oh no, quickly put the lights on. And she reckons this bloke come around and just give her a bit of a slap over the head. And that was enough for her to lose all energy. We got her up, and she was shaking like a leaf. And again, just got to look me in the eyes and tried to ground her. But she was shaking for the rest of the night for about 3 hours. So they're the main sort of ones, mate. People
Yeah.
are scared if they feel something's sort of trying to take over. And
Yeah. For some reason, when I
on the other
did your
hand,
tour too, I was
yeah,
very. I mean, you even said it to me. You said, "Oh, is there any reason you come over here, mate?" And it was like, for some reason, I was attracted to that under that tree. I don't really know the reason
yeah,
why, but to me, it didn't
yeah,
feel bad. But that's obviously
yeah.
a place where other people are drawn to. Is that right?
Well, look, mate, there's 180 unmarked graves there.
Mm.
We don't even know what we're walking over, so we might be walking over a few unmarked graves. They could be getting upset with us and saying, "Look, come on, guys, fair crack the whip.
Yeah.
You've been walking over the grave for 5 years. Here you go, get out of the way." Look, that tree, we've got some mystery surrounding it. We're still delving into the mystery grave we found there via Ovulus 3 from Bill Chapel.
Yep.
So a bit of time, and I might be able to give you a bit of an update on that, mate, down the track.
Yeah, that's
find
cool.
out about this cave. It's a mystery.
Yeah, no worries. So on your tours, you must have had, and you've already kind of mentioned you had quite a few international tourists. So when international tourists come on your tour, what is the story that interests them the most, or what do they mostly want to know about?
Pretty well, they're all coming for an experience to see a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wants to see a ghost, hear a ghost, or feel a ghost. When it happens, it's a bit of a different story. They're like, "Wow, I wish I didn't see that now." But I'd say 99% of people are right into the ghosts and, ghost spirits. Secondly, would definitely be Yowie, Bigfoot. Most people that come from around the world, they've all got their own version, whether it's Bigfoot, Yowie, Yeti, Abominable Snowman. There's dozens of names out there. As you probably know, you're a Yowie man yourself. So
Yeah. Well, I don't look like one, thankfully.
I love listening to, especially the people from Asia. They're all very superstitious.
Mm.
They've all got their big hairy man over there of some sort, and they've got really good stories. And they're terrified the minute you take them into the bush and you get out, it's dark, and you start talking about Yowies and Black Panthers, and they think, "What the hell?" So it goes to be number one. I'd say Yowies number two. UFOs, probably three.
Okay, cool. Well, you kind of also answered my next question there, but like, as you said, cryptozoology is one of my favorite subjects. So have you got any particular stories that you'd like to share about Yowie or the Panthers? Have you seen one yourself, or you've only heard sort of secondhand stories, or in the Blue Mountains particularly, I mean, or the Lithgow Panther, as a lot of people know about?
Yeah, look, I've seen everything, mate, except Yowie.
Okay.
I said this last week, and I think I actually jinxed myself. We think we may have seen one last week at the cemetery. I had two people with me. There was something going on. The box that we had on started swearing at us and telling us to get out and all sorts of swear words, and I've never seen it do that before. And I thought, what the hell's going on here? And then felt there was something behind us. We looked up towards the van, and here's these red eyes. Now, it was 6 or 8 foot tall. It was the size of the bus.
So not a wallaby.
No way, wallaby, mate. I got a powerful torch out, and I whacked it up there, and it disappeared.
Yep.
And there was another light down at about 3 feet off the ground, a yellowy light. And I thought, oh, look, that's someone up there having a cigarette with their torch to come up and see what we're doing.
Mm.
And I yelled out, no response. I've got a torch that goes about 2 kilometres. It's a beauty. Shined it up there, nothing up there. And just something come over us, mate. We had to get out of there real quick.
Yep.
Got up there, and I got my torch out, trying to be tough, and I had a quick look in the dirt. It had just rained, so there was nothing there other than our footprints and our tyre tracks.
Yep.
And I just couldn't do it. Jumped back in the van, locked the gates up, got out of there, went back the next night, and I had 2 fellows who were about 8 foot tall. And I said, "Thanks, mate. I need you guys tonight." And so they come up with me, and they had heaps of stories themselves about Yowies and black cats. And I said, "I might need you back up tonight, mate. I think you guys could actually scare the Yowie off you that big." And
wow.
So we got and had a real good look around where I parked, and we found 1 footprint only of a person's shoe. So I'd have to go back to me 50-50, thinking maybe someone snuck up and had a look, having a cigarette. So no Yowie tracks, no footprints, no car tracks of any other cars. Just that 1 footprint that was in the dirt, and it was like a sneaker. Got to the other gate, had another look. Nothing there at all. Wasn't the same footprint because I took a photo of the shoe to see if I could match it down the bottom. So if that was it, mate, that was the closest I've come to the Yowie.
Mm-hmm.
The girl and the fellow with me on the night said they thought that the red lights were hovering and glowing in a bit of an energy form. To me, it looked like eyes, but I didn't have any glasses on. It was probably 30 metres away, so the young one's probably. I like their description of hovering red energy.
Wow. So what do you with the Yowie? Sorry to interrupt, but
Yep.
with the Yowie, you've got these two kind of big schools of thought here. You know, you've got one that says, well, it's this flesh and blood, real creature, or then you've got the more spiritual side of it, where it's a spiritual creature, or it's a nature spirit, or something like that. What do you reckon? What do you think?
I think I agree with that last one, mate. Look, I think it's like a ghost, or even some of these UFOs. Some people see them, some people don't. I think he's in between the physical and the spiritual world. It could be like from the elemental kingdom, which is getting into the spiritual Gugar talk there. I have seen branches physically broken right through the bush at about 4 to 6 foot high.
Yep.
3-inch branches right through whole sections of the bush. No footprints, no backhoe, no trucks, no workers. People have called me to have a look. And I've seen this sort of phenomenon quite a lot in the middle of nowhere, just broken branches.
Yeah.
I think they're a spiritual creature, mate. I think Aboriginal people in the mountains called them Junjuni. They depicted them in cave drawings around about 7,000 years ago. So it's also, we think it's a white man, English bought out. We called him the big hairy man to start with. But it was here before white man. So, again, Aboriginal people are very spiritual. It's in their drawings. And some of the old books talked about hunting this creature in circles and caging them in and capturing them. So it's the only thing I haven't seen, mate. So it's hard to put that one down and nail it because, I'd love to see one that would be the last thing I need to see. I've seen the black cat a few times.
Yep. Yeah, where have you seen him or her?
I've seen it in around Katoomba as a kid on trail bikes, just through the scrub, and one in Hartley. It was a ghost tour back in 2004. For some reason, the cows in the paddocks were just going berserk. Never really heard them go off like that. Gut feeling, shine my torch over here, 20 metres away, and here's this cat looking at us. He looked back at us. I had 4 people from Asia with me, and they were terrified. I had 2 on each arm, and it took off into the scrub. Closed one eye to start with, like a fox. Yeah. And it took off into the scrub, just casually walked away.
That's very interesting what you say. You're aware of it. We're doing this Bush Monsters show. And actually, what you said then is exactly like the first witness we spoke to who saw one standing in the middle of the road. And he said he saw it. He was I think he said about roughly half a kilometre away. And he said he saw it. It was standing astride the double lines, 2 feet on either side of the line. And he said it just wandered off, just casually just walked off the road like, no one was watching. Like, no one cared.
Predators, mate. I think they're at the top of the food chain. They're pretty relaxed. Even when you see them in the zoo, they just walk around like they're ready for a feed. And different story. I think if you probably tried to antagonise it and provoke it with a stick, I think you'd be looking in a bit of trouble there. But yeah.
So what size would you estimate this one that you saw? Obviously it was from a bit of a distance, but if you could take a guess, what size do you reckon it was?
Labrador size.
Yeah.
I've got a friend in Hartley whose family have been there since the 1850s.
Wow.
Now he's a good fellow. He's got lots of old stories, and he's quite religious. So he's not right into the ghosty and the paranormal. But I said to him, "You seen the Yowie lately, or black cat?" And he always laughs at me because he's an old timer, and he just, what I do is a bit funny, but he supports us.
Yeah.
And he said a lot of stuff since he was a kid, and he said, that bloody cat, mate. He said, it was up here a couple of weeks ago. And he's pricked straight up. Yeah, what happened, mate?
Yeah.
He said, I saw an eagle flying around, and usually it means there's a carcass in the paddock, some sort of, I'll have to go and clean it up, keep the flies away from the cattle and that. So he got his binoculars out and had a look. And he said, I thought it was a fox going to town on this carcass, and he said, geez, he said, bloody, it was a cat. And he said, thought I'd better jump in the ute, go up and have a look. He described it as the size of a Labrador. He says they're common in the area there at Hartley, Lithgow.
Yep.
And he went up, he said, there's 2 dead kangaroos up there. And he said both roos had the eyes eaten out of them, the tongues, and the fleshy bit under the neck.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
The easy parts to get to, yeah.
Well, maybe the delicacies, mate. Maybe the
soft tissue,
Yeah, and he said the neck was bitten out of both of them. He couldn't tell how they died, but he said that cat's been there since he was a boy. He calls it a native cat. He says it's not like a panther or a big black cat. He says it's the size of a dog, which is what I saw.
Yeah.
So, look, you know, you've heard all the legends about circus letting them go. They didn't get enough money on the gate, and you know, military letting them go, and private zoos. Look, million hectares out there of unexplored bush, mate. Who knows what's out there? We could have a native cat, but I've seen a few, and they've always been that dog size. They're not feral cats. I've seen dozens and dozens of feral cats through my life. Normally, the feral cats have got their tail missing, ears bitten off, eyes missing.
Okay.
They've been in a real heap of scraps.
Yeah.
They're pretty rough looking. So yeah, that's my one in the cemetery, and as kids on bikes.
Yeah. So this one you saw, obviously didn't have those injuries. It looked like it was the top of the heap sort of thing. You know, it looked like it was top of the food chain. No one messes with it, so it was in really good condition.
Mate, he was perfect, and that place down there is just full of rabbits, full of possums, frogs, lizards. So much tucker down there for it.
Yeah.
You hear reports of people saying, "Oh, you know, this cow had its head ripped off and all that." And I've never investigated anything like that, but you still hear those old rumours that cats are out killing stock, and you know. Unfortunately, you never really see a good photo. So
yeah, that's it. Yeah. Oh, there's a couple of ones, but photos are so they're so subjective to you know where they're taken and what sort of perspective it was taken from, and it's hard to sort of work out with photos.
It's amazing. I've done over 900 ghost and paranormal tours and events over the last 15 years, and I meet a lot of people from all over the world, and it's amazing how many people have actually seen the Yowie. I'm shocked, you know. It's normally late at night in the middle of the road or on a back road somewhere.
So is this local people, you mean, or people from?
No, just from all over the world, and a lot of people from Australia and out back.
Yeah.
Lawyers, doctors, people that you think wouldn't really be that open, and they say, "Oh, look, I've never told anyone, but I saw this Yowie one night. Some say they're orange, some say they're grey, some say they're brown, 3 different sizes." So look, I'd love to see him, but I've done a lot of these, mate, and I think I would have come across one by now, but unfortunately I haven't got there yet.
Yeah, same here. So it's one thing that I haven't seen either. You know, I've seen a ghost, I've seen a couple of ghosts, and I've seen what could only be described as a UFO. But for me at the moment, the Yowie's the holy grail. You know, that's what I want to see.
It is, mate.
Yeah. So
wouldn't it be great to get a great shot, or just to come face on face? You'll remember that one that you saw him face to face.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all right. Okay. So my next question is, because you grew up in the Blue Mountains, what are some of the earliest mysteries that you heard of as a child?
Definitely lots of UFOs as kids. Living up at Blackheath as a kid, we lived right on the bush looking over Megalong Valley. Now, you've probably heard Megalong Valley is renowned for missing people that go missing down there.
Yeah.
They say lights disappear into the valley. Some say into the water. Some say into just the bush. So lots of UFOs as kids. And I remember seeing some strange stuff as a kid, very young, like 3-4 year old. But when I think back on it, I don't know if I dreamt it or if I actually saw it. And they were very, very profound, like massive lights over your head, beaming down on top of you. And they're a little bit blurry as a kid. Lots of UFO stories, but probably the one that sticks in my mind is a bloke that used to play bagpipes on a rock down the back of the bush where we are. You could see a rock, and this was well known. We'd all go out there and watch this bloke in the afternoon, and he'd get there at a certain time, and he'd sit up there and play the bagpipes, a Scottish fella.
Yeah.
And I had older brothers and sisters, 10, 12 years older than me, and they'd run up to that rock fast as they could and get up there. And then you'd actually see them stand up there, and that bloke would be there, and they'd say, "There's nobody here." So it was really strange that this bloke with the bagpipes would get there, and to the point that the brothers would run up to the rock a kilometre away, see if he was there, and we'd see them go on the rock, and you could still see the mist, or it looked like a physical person there.
Right.
And we also had a ghost in our house as a kid, which was, some say, my grandmother, who was basically like a spirit guide or a protector of me in that house, which was a bit rough, growing up as a kid, older brothers and sisters, and, they were at the drinking age, and we're only younger kids, so lots of stuff used to go on there, and some say she was there to protect me, and I would sit there and play with that ghost, who was some say was my grandmother. So, I'd say probably the bloke on the rock would be the story that sticks in my head with the bagpipes the most, because I remember physically seeing him stand out there.
So you just describe him as a ghost, or would you say?
Yeah, we all did. The whole family did, and it was a common occurrence. You go down and say, "Oh, he's out there playing his bagpipes, this fella."
Yeah, so you actually hear them really loud, or?
It echoed through the valley. It was very strange. It was common, and half the people in the street knew about it. So, you know what? I've never been back there since I left that house to look at it and investigate that. So maybe you've brought up, reminded me of something I'll have to go back and have another look at one night or day.
Yeah, fascinating. All right. Okay, so my last question, we're sort of going to run out of time in a minute, but so my last question is, some people who are interested in the paranormal in this country, and we've spoken about this before, they tend to look overseas at stories, information, famous unexplained / paranormal cases, and they tend to, well, as far as I'm concerned, they don't give our country enough credence in our mysteries. They tend to want to look overseas and go and investigate the Stanley Hotel, or I don't know, or investigate some castle in Scotland or something. You know what I mean? I know that's a criticism of mine. I know we've kind of spoken about this before, because I think this country is really mysterious. You just got to look for that mystery. You know what I mean? You got to go find these mysteries. But I think these days with the internet and things like that, it's a lot easier. But I just think, what do you think about that? Do you think we don't appreciate our own mysteries enough?
For sure, mate. Look, we've got a really rich history. It's a bit dark in some places, but I think we've got so much to offer. And I think there's just a massive amount of places out there that haven't even been looked at. Yeah. Probably the reason that, and probably the States, over in the States is the biggest one. They've got all the TV shows. Everyone's turned on by the hoo-ha on the shows and the gadgets and, all the stuff that they get up to and how they do it. And maybe they see, we can do this. We can get a TV show out of this. We'll go over there and join in. And I don't know, mate. For some reason, it seems to be all Americanized, and maybe YouTube and all these pay TV shows have got a little bit to answer for there. And, we've got a lot here to offer, even just in the Blue Mountains. And I know up your way, I've been on your tour up there, and we just love the town. And we only did a short walk around. I imagine spending a week up there looking through the shops and the village itself, the town itself. And then
you're always learning new things. You're always finding out new stuff, and then you find out stuff that's considered common knowledge, and you find out that that didn't end up being true. That person didn't live there, or because you'd say, just for example, just the other day here, if you're into history and artifacts and things like this, I got home and I was walking in the backyard, and there's this glass ink pot just sitting there on the ground, just from probably maybe around the turn of maybe before that, maybe late 19th century or turn of the century kind of thing. And, you just picked it up and you go, wow, who had it, who used it, and obviously what they used it for, but you know what I mean? But, what's the story? History lesson there. Yeah. What's the story behind this, and why was it just left there? Why was it just thrown? And a lot of the artifacts that I found here actually appear to be in an incinerator, where I believe there was an incinerator, where they've just turfed whatever whatever garbage is in there and just burn.
And to us, that stuff today is a gem.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, look at this watch or this old, bottle tops and just anything that you find. And it's a strange one, mate. I think we've got a lot to offer. Well, look, in terms of European, we've only got a young history, and maybe in America and in England they've got castles that are 500-600 years old, and people are, all of our ghostly and paranormal stuff. Basically, we come over from UK, European stories, European ghosts, and for some reason people like the idea of castles, haunted castles. But I think we've got enough. We've probably got more haunted pubs here than anywhere.
Yeah. Quite a few blokes probably died in the pub too, by the way.
I'd say a few of them, yeah. A lot of spirits there, mate, as you say.
Oh, how very Australian. Yeah, but I agree. I just think, and nothing against our American counterparts or our counterparts from the UK or anywhere else in the world, but I just think we have a lot to offer. I mean, European history aside, I mean, the Aboriginal legends and mysteries and the Dreamtime stories, they're absolutely, to me, they're absolutely fascinating. And what I believe about the Aboriginal people, particularly the ones that are still living fairly traditionally, is that they keep secrets. Like, unless you're in the fold, they're not going to tell you the stuff that they know about this country, the what we would consider the paranormal stuff or the supernatural stuff, what do you want to call it? Yeah. But I think that they're the custodians of that. And I actually had a really long conversation with a fellow going back, I may have told you this before, but a couple of years ago, and he didn't give me his name, he didn't give me his real name, but he said, look, I'm in very tight with, I don't know what tribe it was anyway, but he said, I'm very in tight with this Aboriginal group, and he said, they protect the Yowies. He said, they know where they are, they're the custodians of the Yowies. So, I reckon a lot of Aboriginal people are not holding back, holding out, but I think they're preserving their traditions, which they don't necessarily want to share with the world at large, which I think is probably a good thing too.
Oh, for sure. Look, just say, we found a Yowie up here at, say, wherever. You would imagine the amount of people that would be jumping over me to get to that site. So unfortunately, over the years, we've had to keep a lot of our stuff really, really quiet. We've been approached by TV shows and all sorts of people to do this for them and do that for them. And unfortunately, I have to cut my nose off to spite my face and say, no, sorry, guys, we don't do that. Yeah. And when I say, what? I say, because our sites will be trashed. They'll be overrun with people that have got no boundaries and no code of ethics or anything. And that affects my livelihood because, that's my job. That's what I do. That's my passion. And we've already had that type of stuff happen. And you go there and you think, what the hell's happened here? And then you'll see stuff go up on Facebook or whatever. And then next thing you know, you've got cars coming left, right and centre. And the place gets trashed. So I imagine if something like that got out, they're keeping it quiet for a reason, maybe out of respect to the creatures. And that's a whole different kettle of fish, mate. Aboriginal stories and sightings and culture, just the stars, the stories about the stars and creation and that. It's just massive. Yeah. And they're very connected, and I get a few on my tours, and they're always quite sensitive, and they tune into a lot of stuff, and they can pick up on energy quite easily.
Yeah. All right. Well, we might pull it up there. Thanks again, Pete, for giving us your time this evening. Very, very much appreciated. As I said earlier, Pete is from Blue Mountains Mystery Tours down there in the Blue Mountains, obviously, in New South Wales. And you can visit Pete at www.bluemountainsmysterytours.com.au. You can also find them on social media, Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube, and Google+. Thanks a lot for your time, Pete. Appreciate it.
All right, Murray, thanks very much, and I'd love to catch up with you again soon. Thanks, mate.
For sure. Thanks, mate.
Bye.
Unexplained Australia podcast brought to you by Hunter Valley Ghost Tours and Lakes Paranormal. Don't forget to visit us at www.unexplainedaustralia.com.